after being appointed, taking over as the Public Works Superintendent last summer, I probably overwhelmed myself a little bit by trying to dive into all of the utilities and trying to look at those and make sure that we were doing business the most efficiently way possible to keep the rates down for the citizens of the city of Shelton. After starting in on that, I kind of backed up and looked at the utilities and prioritized them by the ones that were struggling the most. And the first one was the solid waste department. And took a fairly brief look at it and brought just a few things back to Mr. Clark, Mr. O'Leary, and they tasked me with taking a little more comprehensive look into this, and that's what we've been doing over the last, about 6 months now. Through this, there's been a lot of work put into this and a lot of drafts of this. We've, as you said earlier, we're trying to keep it simple, but I would like nothing more than to have questions throughout this just so everybody understands. There is a portion in the back for questions at the end, but I'd really like to address any of those questions as we move along, if we can. Because it is a little difficult to understand the entire utility, as there are many different pieces to it. So, just kind of the first, I guess I kind of hit on the first page there. If we go to the next page, we've had a decrease in overall net position over the last 3 years. There have been no rate increases since 2011. We did, per the commission, 3 rate increases, 2 in 15. The last one, which occurred in 2016, January of 2016, which, as you can see through this chart, starts to get us to a point where we get back going in the right direction. But with costs and depreciation of assets, without continuing on with those increases, we start to see that we start going back into the red again. So just tried to look at the overall picture of the utility and to see if we had any areas there where we could make some money and didn't have to pass that on to the ratepayers. And if we go to page number 3 there, we did come up with quite a few after really looking at this, extensive talks with not only Mason County Garbage, but RDC Republic out of Seattle, who processes recycling. Took a look at the Rolloff Box policy that you guys passed back in December of 2014 and came up with some revenue sources. These are net revenue sources. The collection and sale of commercial cardboard and the collection and sale of commercial recycling, which, just one caveat to that, we have to understand that we are in competition with recycling for any competitors, which our competitor at this point would be Mason County Garbage. We are not given that right as we are with solid waste. The Rolloff Box is ours and ours exclusively. Mason County Garbage right now is providing that service just because we haven't been able to in the past. But I think ramping up that policy or that program would be fairly easy to do. The commercial recycling at this point, we are driving by those accounts right now that are serviced by Mason County Garbage, and we'll get into that a little further back in this presentation. So those are kind of the ideas. As you see, net revenue could be somewhere in the range of about $85,000 annually. So there's a few things that need to, if we go to page 4, there are a few things that would need to happen. We've got to spend some money to make money. We would need a trailer and chassis to put our recycling in. We would also need a recycle transfer station, a lot like the Mason County Transfer Station, if you've all been to that, out at where the landfill site used to be. It would look a lot like that, just to process recycling. And with that, we would need some land. We've got a fairly decent site down at the wastewater treatment plant down on the end of Fairmont. There's some vacant land on the west side of the biosolids building. We would need about 3/4 of an acre to put this transfer station on. We did some comparables. The only real comparable that we found as far as trying to price out what that land would cost us, paid back to the sewer department, the sewer utility, was a piece down by the old ITT Rainier building that was 1.71 acres and was listed for sale at the assessed value. It has been listed for quite some time and not sold. But that land was listed for $149,000, $125,000, which if you take that 3/4 of an acre, it's 44% of the 1.7 acres, which ends up being about $66,000 that would be transferred from the solid waste utility to the sewer utility. All of the improvements, land improvements for the transfer station ended up being around $75,000. That was looked at back in 2012 and was done by not only Mike Michaels, but myself. We did a pretty extensive look at what that would cost us and put some numbers to that as far as building a retaining wall, some paving, stormwater work would have to go into that, and there were some others, improvements that would need to go into that to bring that up to standards. I'm moving through pretty quickly. Does anybody have any questions up to this point?
Nope.
Okay. Commissioner McDowell?
Nope.
Okay.
Thank you.
The first one that we kind of looked at before was the commercial cardboard. I think we've done a pretty good job as a Public Works team looking at all of the cost for this to come up with the actual net revenue. We would have to purchase some 2.5 or some 2-yard containers. There are about 90 commercial cardboard accounts that are within the city limits within Shelton right now. I think somewhere around 100 containers would get us by for now, depending on how many we actually transfer over. A rear load truck, and then for ongoing expenses, we would have to depreciate out that truck. We would give it about a 10-year life that initially is going to cost us around $55,000, which ends up being $5,500 a year. We also figured in fuel per trip, and also processing handling, which would be done by RDC Republic out of Seattle. After actually talking to Steve Gilmore with RDC Republic this morning, this number may be quite low for actual revenue. It looked like if we did some processing changes by separating that out and not putting it into the commingled, we're looking at probably around another $20,000 in revenue. But that would take a few things also that I didn't figure into this presentation. But there is the possibility of even some more revenue out of that. And we would have to set some rates. The commission would have to set some rates for those. We don't have those at this point. The recommendation from Public Works would be to mirror the rates that we have now, and those are all about 20% less than Mason County garbage. And that's what we figured all of the revenue numbers on was a 20% reduction from Mason County garbage's rates. And also figuring that would entice our commercial accounts to transfer from Mason County Garbage to us if we could save them some money. And not only save them money, but have what I feel is much better customer service on our end.
That's because you're doing it.
Yes, sir.
That's good. You should be proud of your job. There you go.
Yes. So any questions as far as the numbers go on the commercial cardboard?
Well, on a lot of this, what we're kind of saying, for example, you're saying that at the moment that, let's just take cardboard for example, that our rates would be 20% lower than Mason County's garbage, but we got to buy some equipment.
That's correct.
So in reality, we're 20% lower, but we may need 20% higher to get the money to buy the other equipment to do the job. And I mean, the rates would actually be higher if we actually buy the equipment. Is that right? Am I missing that?
No, if you look at this, that's why I said to start with, we have to spend some money to make some money.
So you got that already in there.
If you look at the net revenue annually, it would take us about 5 years at this reduced rate to cover the actual cost of all of the startup equipment that we would need.
Okay.
At that point, we would be in the black from that point forward. Because if you look at this, we figured in depreciation of not only the truck, but also the containers, and we would be able to replace those and have money to do that moving forward. So after we paid back the initial investment, that would be revenue moving forward.
Okay.
And it also opens up some other options for us that we'll get to further back in the presentation. So if we go to commercial recycling, it's kind of the same story. We don't need any additional containers. We've got plenty of recycled containers on hand. The manpower would be very minimal just because we are driving past those commercial accounts right now while we're picking up residential. Obviously, the businesses are spread throughout Shelton, a lot of them in the downtown area, but there are some that are mixed in with residential, and even downtown residential is also mixed in. So a lot of these 90 plus accounts, we're driving by now, passing right by them, which if we could entice folks to sign up with us with a 20% reduced rate from Mason County Garbage, I think that we can get most of those accounts. But net revenue on that, around $13,000 annually, figuring in all costs.
That's not an immediate see it immediately. That would be a few years down the road that we would see this net annual revenue? Or is that going to be immediate?
That would be immediate.
Immediately,
Yep.
Okay.
As soon as we get those folks signed up and start picking those customers up.
Okay.
And that figure, along with the cardboard figure, that bottom line, those are after you've invested in the equipment.
Correct.
At existing rate.
Correct.
Okay.
But we don't have rates yet for recycling,
Right.
for commercial recycling.
Right.
We would have to set them.
Mm-hmm.
So then we move to the Rolloff Box program, which we do have rates on, and a policy that's been passed that we mentioned back before. At this point, we've got several roll-off accounts within the city of Shelton, one of which was Simpson, who had 16 20-yard roll-off boxes. We have talked to SPI. It doesn't sound like they're going to have nearly that many, but it sounded like they were going to have a couple. They are not figured into the net revenue just because I didn't know where they were at. I didn't figure it in, so there would be some additional revenue even on top of the $50,000 that's figured in there now.
Can you explain what a roll-off box is?
It's the big square containers. We would offer 10, 20, and 40-yard containers. They're the containers that you see out on roofing jobs,
Right.
demolition jobs of houses. Mm-hmm. They're the big square boxes with lids that folks put all of their scrap material in.
How about the new marijuana place?
They also figured they would have at least one
Okay.
10-yard container.
What would they put in it? I mean,
They actually have to grind up their waste material and mix it with garbage.
that would not be good for people to take that and smoke.
No.
No.
No, they grind that all up and mix it with garbage so that they can get rid of it. That's a state law.
Yeah.
So
That'd be
that's what they would be doing.
Okay.
And none of those extra boxes are figured in here.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I would lean towards SBI. I mean, if someone's got to take it, and if we went this route, you would get those. I mean,
Correct.
so that's good. You're being conservative on your figures.
Yes. I didn't want to shoot too high and then
All right.
not end up with enough. So
So is this net annual revenue at the bottom of this, is that an immediate C?
yes,
Immediately, okay.
and that would be the most immediate of all of them. Just because we don't have to go out and entice customers to come over to the city of Shelton.
Uh-huh.
As a solid waste utility, we have the right to tell Mason County Garbage, you're no longer servicing the roll-off boxes. We're taking those over, and those customers that now have those, we would replace them with our boxes
Okay.
and take that over immediately.
Very good.
So, before I get to the next slide, which I think we kind of left out, we had it in our first presentation, but I think the big question...
Let me go back
Go ahead.
just a second here. Okay, on the roll-off box then, so basically Mason County Garbage is doing it. All these others, you said this would be approximately 20% less than them, 20%. You didn't say anything like that on this, on the roll-off box. So they're doing the roll-off box program right
Yes,
now,
but,
okay?
but Mr. Mayor, you've already set rates for the roll-off boxes.
Okay,
Yeah, you guys passed a policy back in December of 2014.
okay. And we're
setting
paying
those
that to
rates.
them? Or,
No, we're not doing anything.
we're allowing
with
them
it.
to use, they're ones that are doing those rates, is that right? Or we just, if we do them, we would then do the rates that we set. We'd set rates on something that we're not doing right now. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was brought forth
Okay.
by the utility.
All right.
I think it was Jason Dose that actually brought it forward.
Okay. Planning that we may do this.
Yes.
Okay, but we never actually acted it, so.
We've never actually done
Okay.
it to this point.
I remember that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yes. So yes, you've already passed rates for this and those are already set. And those are mostly in line with the same kind of rate structure that we've got with the rest of our utility compared to our one competitor that we have. They are slightly less. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say one thing. The reason for the delay on some of the roll-off box, we have the boxes. We haven't
I thought we
actually.
did buy one.
We have, I think, how many?
We've bought
12?
two 40-yarders,
Yeah.
Right.
and also recycling Grant has purchased two 40-yarders. So
Yeah.
we've got four 40-yarders at this point.
But we're not doing it except for our own or something at the
Correct.
moment?
We've torn down some houses and done some other stuff with them, but yeah, for the
Okay.
most part, we have not utilized it.
This is the time to ask the question, so.
Yeah. We've been working with finance to establish a policy to make sure we can refund and do everything appropriately with them to get this program underway. And then, like Craig said, the last 6 months, Dave O'Leary has had us kind of looking into this as a more formal program. So we're very close to being able to make it happen, so to speak. We pretty much are in alignment now with finance on the policy requirements, the requirements to receive the deposits and that for these boxes. So that's very close. So like Craig said, we can pretty much move forward on this one pretty quick.
Yeah, I think that final draft is with finance at this point. So we're very, very close with that. But to get that done, we have to do the rest of it. And that's the big question at this point. I think that probably is going through everybody's mind. How do you do that? We haven't had any staff figures in here. And I think everybody asks, how do you get this done? And if you go to the next slide, or the next page, it's right now we have a dual stream residential recycling program. We have one split body truck that we purchased back in 2013 that we utilize for the dual stream recycling. But that truck can't pick up the entire route daily by itself. So then what we do is we asked for a new roll-off or a new split body truck for this year. It was approved. But what we've been doing in the past is one garbage truck has been following another garbage truck picking up both
I remember
of those
that
bins.
conversation, yes.
So it's been very inefficient up to this point, but I think we've found a way to get away from that after talking to RDC Republic out of Seattle. They process single stream recycling very efficiently. Mason County Garbage takes theirs to the Olympia facility, and they do not process single stream recycling at this point. They can take it to a Tacoma facility that will do that for them. It is very, very expensive. RDC Republic has got Seattle, Tacoma, some of the major cities up in that area. They're processing all of their recycling, and they're very, very good at it.
So no longer do we have three bins, you just put everything out in the one bin, they send it, and then is that correct?
That's correct.
Except for compost.
Except for yard waste. Yard waste is a different account.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
they would still need to have
Well-
a yard waste account.
So instead of having one for papers and one for
Yeah.
glass
Put it all in
and
your-
metal,
all
you
the-
just
just
put
like
it
we
all
did in
into
the old
one?
days.
Including plastic bags, which right now we don't take, that end up in there anyway.
Right.
They
Now-
will take everything in one bin.
Will the citizens get a bigger container or?
They can if they need one.
Okay.
Yes, we
Well,
would
that's
probably go to 65s and 95s, which I also think would make recycling for the citizens of Shelton much easier. Right now, we're having to go around, Jason Dose and Eric Burke have been going around tagging customers and telling them, hey, you're putting the wrong thing in the wrong bin, and it's very difficult. It's a very difficult concept, I think. But moving to single stream, they throw everything in one, and away it goes. And RDC Republic has done a very good job of being able to sort that stuff mechanically, and keep rates down to a minimum of what they charge you to process and handle that stuff.
Okay, glass, everything,
Yeah, everything.
put it on there.
Single stream with glass.
Huh.
Yes. There may be an opportunity in the future to possibly pick glass up in a separate container, maybe once a month, but for right now, they're processing the whole thing,
Wow.
glass and everything. Yes, and that's why we had to go as far as Seattle, and we would have to truck it to Seattle, because RDC Republic handles, they're in the recycling business. Mason County Garbage and Solid Waste, the parent company of Mason County Garbage, Waste Connections, sorry, lost it there for a second. Waste Connections, they don't do a lot of recycling. That's not their thing. They like solid waste. RDC Republic is a recycling giant. They do things that others just don't do. Marilyn?
Question, would we be able to expand our recycled plastics like clamshells and styrofoam to match what Seattle does?
They do not take styrofoam at this point.
Okay, but clamshells, the plastic things, do you know?
I can't answer that at this point. I know that we did talk about styrofoam, and it's a touchy subject. They do take it at times, but it decreases your commodities value, and your processing and handling definitely goes up at that point too. So we don't take it at this point. I wouldn't recommend getting into that. It's going to decrease the value of what we're actually taking in.
Okay,
So are you figuring in the cost, the time, the gas, everything to take it up to RDC?
Yes, that is the average price per ton,
Okay.
handling and processing, and that would be most likely a private hauler. If you look back in the slides earlier, there is a trailer and chassis figured in there that we would have to purchase. that a private hauler would have to haul to Seattle. And we have figured that into that cost of $114 a ton.
Okay.
And I just want to explain this one because Greg and I went back and forth and trying to understand this concept. If you look at the dual stream recycling, right now we process around 673 tons of recycling annually. And that ends up costing us with Mason County Garbage about a little over $26,000. But if you look at the single stream, this 961 tons of material would include all of the commercial cardboard and commercial recycling figured in. So if you look at the annual cost of both of those, we can do these other two revenue generators for about the same cost going single stream as we would the current state that we're in with dual stream.
Mm-hmm.
Why doesn't Seattle has individual for recycling, and I mean, why doesn't Seattle go single stream? Maybe they do, I don't know.
I believe they are under single stream right now.
Okay, I see the news, and then I see, I know that composting, they got a new thing where you get fined if you put it into your thing, and so.
Composting a different story.
Yeah, I know, yeah. Okay, well, that's good, we should probably keep up with Seattle.
No.
Keeping up with the Joneses.
So I just wanted to confirm that all of these costs and all of the revenues, that's all related specifically to the solid waste utility.
That is correct.
So the revenues go into the solid waste utility?
That is correct.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. So, the split body truck that we purchased back in 2013 certainly wouldn't be wasted at this point. It could be used to pick up recycling and garbage on some of the routes that we have right now. Some of the smaller routes, like Wednesday's route is a smaller route for solid waste, and that could be utilized to pick up trash and recycling on the same route. So that truck doesn't go by the wayside at this point. It still is being utilized and definitely can realize some efficiencies with that. So, but we would not recommend purchasing another one moving forward. So if we go to the next page, I guess the big question is, how do we pay for it? Right now, the commission has passed the budget to buy a split body truck for 2016. There's $336,000 in the budget at this point for solid waste to purchase a split body truck. Oddly enough, all of these improvements and everything that we need to start up and implement these programs totals up to be $336,110.
Oh, gosh.
I'll pay the $110.
That's
I'll
key.
pay it
So is
right
all
now.
we're looking at is a deficit of $110?
That's correct.
Yeah.
And if we
But you don't get the truck.
We don't get the truck,
but
but
you
we
don't
don't
need the
need the
truck.
truck.
Don't
We're
need it.
actually taking a truck off the road, and we would actually be able to, at this point, we've got an 04, an 06, an 07, a 13, and a 14 garbage truck at this point. We would be able to surplus the 2004 just because it's used for a backup right now, but we wouldn't need that if we're only running 2 trucks on routes
Okay.
at this point.
And on top of that, are we ready for questions or anything?
I am ready for all the questions you
Well,
got.
on top of that, there are some negotiable things in here possibly. Okay, for example, this 3/4 acre thing, it looks like you're giving whoever, the other department, full market value on that.
Yes.
Well, I mean, what are we just taking it from one group in the city and giving it to another group in the city, so.
It would be a utility transfer.
Yeah,
Correct.
so that's not a big savings because we all need money in all those departments anyway. But, usually with real estate things kind of like that, if you were doing something that you don't usually, we don't pay full market value most of the time. So I don't know if that's if it matters much because of the fact you're taking it from,
That's going to be a decision for the finance director. But what we wanted to do is give you the real numbers, and if we decide to do something else as far as that transfer goes, I don't think that it's going to exceed that number of the 66,000.
Craig, I just want to make sure too that none of the money that is set aside for the C Street cleanup is going to be used
No.
for, so we're still building that fund.
The only thing we're using is we're asking to use the split body, the new
Okay.
split body truck
Which
money
was separate.
to implement all of these upgrades that we need to move forward.
Okay.
And I guess one thing just to clarify, all of these have to be done together.
Mhm.
We can't necessarily break them out. That was one question that Greg had for me. Well, why don't we just do the roll-off box? Because it generates the most revenue. Well, the problem with that is if we don't do the single stream recycling and move to the rest of it, that's very difficult to do with current staffing levels because we've got all of those trucks out on the road following each other. And then we would have to hire another employee, and all of our net revenue goes down the drain in salaries and benefits.
So I'm really happy with this report. I know you guys have been working really hard to come up with innovative ways that we can keep our solid waste utility as a city-run utility. So this looks great. Congratulations.
I'm very
Thank you.
impressed.
Thank you.
I think you moved a few little numbers around to get it within the $110. I mean,
Actually, to be honest with you, we did not.
you just threw it on the wall and that's what you got, huh?
We threw everything out there and figured everything in, and actually, up till even this morning, I had forgotten to include the depreciation of the rear load truck that we would need for cardboard. And actually, we were under until I caught that this morning. So
Wow.
we added another $55,000 in cost to that. So yeah, don't ask me how it came up
Well-
to that, but that's where it ended up.
Here's the deal, is as a salesman, and you're a good one, what we need to do is, I need to think about this as we all do. We need to talk to maybe our city administrator a little and our treasurer, because we have a commitment to be, represent these people out here who the rates they're suffering under that. Anything that will help them or alleviate and do the best we possibly, that is my goal, and that's partly why we're asked, we need to look at the numbers and look at how we're doing this. So I appreciate your wisdom, but, again, I want to, with our city administrator and maybe the financial director, just, get some touches on exactly, if I missed a question, I want to make sure before I sign on to something that I got the best available science, so.
Definitely. Yeah, and we have, when we were talking to Mr. O'Leary, it was a much more extensive report to him. We have made it a little easier to understand just because it was very, very difficult through all of the pieces to understand. And there was a lot of financials that we did work with Kathy Byerly on. So, yeah, any questions that you do have for them, I encourage you to ask, just to make sure that we haven't missed anything. But
Yes.
over 6 months, we've come up with
Oh, yeah.
multiple ideas and
I know you've
gone
been
to
working
staff
on it,
and-
working on it a long time.
Yeah. So
Okay, does that complete your report?
It does.
Okay, any other questions? You have to follow the rules just like Maryland, if you sign in, and you can, just the way we do it, Mike. Do you want to do that? Okay, sign your name in, please.
You can sign in here, I brought it over here with me.
And what we'll do is we'll just have a comment ahead of our public comment period, but we'll try to, I didn't make the rules up, I just try and force them. I let Marilyn in on that one a little earlier. It's hard, I've been sitting out there, I used to do it all the
Frank
time.
called on me, it wasn't.
Yeah, I know, okay. All right,
Mike Olson, a couple of things came to my mind as I heard no talk of capital reserve set aside for upgrading stuff. If you're gonna not get your split body truck this year, how long before you'll need a split body truck? And what is that gonna do to the rates? You never talked about any rate increases going forward at all. My other question is, how come there's no talk of a franchise fee that I've been asking for 4 years? And still nothing in your study about what that would generate at all, by charging Mason County Garbage a franchise fee to operate within the city. All of the utilities have a franchise fee attached to them. Cable, PUD, everything. Mason County Garbage does not. I don't understand why that's never been brought up. I've had conversations with Rick Frederickson, who was amenable to it, But I think if you start competing with him, he won't be. So I think you better look at that stuff.
Thank you for your comment. Thank you for your input. Okay, are we done with your subject? Close to it?
Yeah.
So we move on, we have another presentation to
Sure.
do.
Would you like me to respond to any?
You certainly can, yeah, absolutely.
As far as the purchase of a new truck, we certainly looked at that. All of our trucks at this point are being depreciated out. Those funds are going into a special account to purchase additional trucks if need be. I think we would put, by taking one of them off the road, we put buying off a new truck until somewhere around 2018 to 2019. And at that point, we would have enough depreciation out of these other vehicles to make that happen. As far as a franchise fee, I know that we have talked about that with Mr. O'Leary, and I'm not sure where that's at this point. We didn't include it in this study, and to be completely honest with you, at this point, if we move forward with this concept, I'm not sure Mason County Garbage is going to be doing business within the city limits anyway, in any way, shape, or form.
I just said it might be an important thing to have a number. It could be as high as $80,000,
Mm-hmm.
which you're leaving on the table.
Yes.
And is it worth
If we don't move forward with any of
Right, if
this.
you don't move forward,
Yes.
you crunch those numbers to see
Duly
if
noted,
it's worth it.
duly noted. Thank you.